Um, Welcome to the conversation in research methods and research analysis. So we welcome everybody. We are happy you are here. We want to look at two critical, elements of research, and you have to pay so much attention. The first thing that I want you to have is the breakdown of a paper, how we break down a paper and what we really actually focus on when we are writing a paper. Okay, so then just a minute. Someone is asking for the link. We'll continue. Okay, so I was saying that when we are writing a paper, what are some of the key things to focus on? That's what we need to do, and we need to pay so much attention to that. Then when I'm just done talking about that, I will have time to indicate to you the questions that are frequently asked when you are defending your research. Now, the focus of the study for today is to help you to look at research from the end, right? We want you to look at it from the end, So you start from the end. Let me draw. This is the beginning, right? From the beginning, this is the end. We want to stand from here today so that our eyes can be cast backward. Why should we stand where I want you to stand? It's because you should understand the ultimate goal of everything. And I think that can guide you as you are writing and as you are trying to come up with the topics. Because when you don't know where you are going, when you're trying to come up with the topic, actually you have no clue of where you're going. You don't know what is required of you doing. I think it tends to become very, very challenging for the majority of the people. So now, a good number of people shared. This is what I want to make mention of. A good number of people shared the topics to me. The idea of sharing the topics, please, I emphasize before I start this presentation, is not to trouble you, right? I am not here to cause problems or challenges. I wanted you not to pressure or to have problems where we are going, not to have problems, actually challenges. It's better you start considering those research topics. I'm happy others have already submitted that are in this class. Yeah, which is a good thing. Let's submit our research topics for that, because the goal is that, the idea is that when you're done with the research topics, when we're done with the submission of the topics, we want to move on now to the next stage, where you start writing the introduction, you write your introduction, then we'll move on to another stage, which is the literature review. Together, we'll move to methodology of those things. We want you to move together with us so that you can properly understand. Now, when us move to maybe introduction, you don't even have the topic yet. You will not move with us, and you start thinking as if you are not understanding what you're doing, because you'd have remained behind. So please, let's move at the same pace. That's the message we are sending across. Away from the message being sent, let's get started now. Here is the breakdown of a research paper. When you are done working, or when you work, or when you're coming up with your research topics and everything, when you publish, because when you are done, when you do your research, you're going to write something that we call a report at the end of everything. Then you are going to produce what we call an abstract. Now listen carefully. Here is an abstract. You start with, a paper starts with an abstract. What do you write in abstract? What is more important in an abstract? Usually an abstract is very short, right? Very, very short. It doesn't even reach half a page oftentimes, quarter a page, usually. So what is written in the abstract? This is where you give us the rationale of the propositions that you are making. You're going to give us the study design methods, right? And I'll give you an example of an abstract for a study. You will see what we mean. a study design, and then within the abstract, you are giving us the brief results with data, right? The brief results with the data. So you're going to give us that, and you will be able to give us the conclusion implications. This is what you do when you're actually coming up with the abstract. So in the abstract, number one, there is the rationale of the proposition, the hypothesis. There is actually a study design methods that you're going to use. For example, you mentioned to us what designs we're using. Is this a quantitative approach? You tell this is a quantitative, this is a qualitative approach, this is a mixed method. Don't worry if you can't remember these, I'll remind you when the time gets there very soon. So you tell us the design. How is it designed? Okay, when you did the study, you briefly talk about the results that come out, and then you tell us the implication of the conclusion. Now, in the introduction, you might have heard all the research proposals. Actually, let's get back to the proposal. They have the introduction. What do you write in the introduction? This is what we want you to pay attention to. What do you put in the introduction? Because people just think, oh, introducing is just, oh, my name is this, or the name of the topic is this. What do you put in the introduction? That's a question. Okay, this is what you put in the introduction. Number one, you're going to give us a general background about the problem, right? The disease is a problem, okay? The problem, what is the general background of the problem? Where is it coming from, right? Did the problem just start abruptly, or when did it start? Like, give us the general background. I'll show you how to give the general background. Yeah, I'm just mentioning the things that should be in there. The specific, challenge that is there, right? What is the specific dilemma that is there, and why is this is still unresolved? Tell us, because obvious other people have attempted to solve that same problem, right? But the question is, why do you think that problem has not yet been solved? And you Now, how do you intend to solve it? How do you intend to solve it? This is where now you say, okay, I'll use this approach. I'm going to do this and this and this. That's the idea. And then you give us the aim of your study in the introduction. So these are some of the key components that should actually not miss in the introduction. Of course, these don't write, introduction should not be pages and pages. You find the ways of summarizing these key things within the shortest possible piece of writing. Possible within a page, at least everything should fit into this, right? Then you can go to the methods. Let's quickly move to the methods. I'll take time on questions when it comes to the questions that are used for defense, and you have to be in class that time. Now, what methods are you going to be using? I have deliberately we have removed literature review, because literature review will always be there, and it's not a challenging thing to just pick and put literature. The issues with the research or the departure points come in from these same points that I've highlighted here, methods, right? Because if you can just change the method, you can even change the method of the study, then you would have still changed even the entire study just by changing the method, right? If you can change the method, you would still have changed the entire study. So there is a lot that has to be done around the methods, and we take the methodology very, very serious. What do we put in the method? Are you able to hear me? Might be talking to self, or maybe I've already started breaking, eh? Are you able to hear me clearly?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah. That's why these things, thanks very much. These things that I'm showing you, I've told you that right now when we select the topic, we are going to go through these things practically. Like, I teach you maybe how to write an introduction, then I send you using your topics to write, then you come back, you send back, I review, just like that. We learn these things by practicing, not just by listening. Methods. The design, give us the design of the study. What is the study all about, when, and how often does this occur? You give us the within the methodology, you tell us in terms of the inclusions of the sample. What does your sample include? Which are excluded subgroups, right? Remember, when you're sampling and collecting sample, there is not everyone that you're going to ask. For example, you go out to ask, you get a questionnaire, and they go out to ask people. I'm sure there are some people that you're not going to ask, right? Because they are not just within your study. Like, you are not going to ask everyone. Even if you're going to say, let's say, for example, you're going to ask, your sample size is just women, right? Maybe there are some women that you may not ask for some reasons. Okay, maybe, for example, your study could be excluding pregnant women, or it could be excluding other, you just understand what I mean. Okay, so there are those excluded subgroups. They have to appear here in the method. Measurements, parameter units, and validity. Here, you tell us the measurements that you're going to use. How did you measure this? How do you measure this? For example, someone wants to talk about financial inclusion, right? Financial inclusion is more like a concept. It's very broad. When you say people are financially included, what do you actually mean? So you find that there are so many measurements that we are using. There are measures that we use and parameters that we use to measure financial inclusion. You have to tell us the measures that you are going to choose to use in this study. Okay? And you give us the interventional dose, compliance, adverse effect as well. It has to come out. And then the analysis transformation using some statistical power. We use the softwares here that I was talking about when I introduced the topic. I said we're going to do Stata, we're going to do SPSS, you're going to do ARA Studio, right? You're going to learn how to use ARA Studio, and you learn how to use eViews. All these softwares are very, very important to use, especially SPSS for those that do most of the studies in the social sciences, business, and in health. Actually, it's mostly used. This one is mostly used. If you want, you can even start studying, learning how to use SPSS on your own. You will need it. Where we are going. Stata, very good for quantitative, and the ARA Studio is good for both. Okay. Up to here. Let me just confirm you are still following. You're still able to hear me. Then we'll be good. Hello?
We are still together.
Okay, thanks. Thanks. Then from there, what comes after the methodology, obviously, is the process of analysis. The analysis column, obviously, we are not paying so much attention. In the meantime, we have skipped it, omitted it. We go straight to the results that come out. So what do you present in the results? You give us the baseline, subgroup, cross-sectional tables. I'll show you how we give those, the main questions, figures, the tables, and they'll come out. The secondary questions, right? There are those secondary questions and unexpected observations, right? Because when you're doing these studies, sometimes you expect to have this, as you are trying to look for whatever you're looking for, you may end up even discovering things that you are not looking for, right? Those are unexpected observations. You have to put them, but they have to be very short. Then discussions. You do the discussions. What do you discuss when you reach to the discussion? This is the last part of it. Here, the discussion is broken down into these categories. Number one, you talk about the bottom line, main results, message, implication. Actually, the main thing, main focus of the topic, actually. That's what you bring out. Did you find that then you come to the part where you're comparing with the earlier studies, what is really different or what is new? Tell us what is new about this study that you have done, or what is different, right? You got to tell us what is different or what is new. In the discussions is where you give us the weaknesses or the strength of the design or of the method that you used. You have to be very honest at this point. Tell us, what do you think are the weaknesses of your study, the strength, and the weaknesses with the design, whatever you think, not really thinking, or whatever you have encountered. Actually, there is no thinking here. It's about knowing. Yeah. Then when you're done with that, you can give us the interpretation and the mechanisms. So what do you think has been resolved? What do you think has not been solved from your study? Tell us what is missing. Now, this is where you give us the limitation, the gaps. What do you think future? Give us the future direction of the research in that area. Yeah. So this one is just relevant for those in the medical field. It's called the clinical interpretation, or the medical relevance, right? But in context of, or to generalize this, we are talking about the importance of this study to the board of knowledge. How do we benefit, all of us? How do we benefit from the study? How do the policymakers benefit from the study? You bring out very briefly, just maybe 1 or 2 lines, just very pinpointed, right? Don't write pages and pages on this part. And you conclude with the implications, and then you give us even the recommendations, the suggestions. So basically, this is the ultimate goal that you pursue, right? It is the ultimate goal. When everything is said and done, we should have something coming out like this. And so I told you we are going to go through step by step. Now we are still at the step where we need this topic here. There is a topic before the abstract. But now someone doesn't want to give us the topic. It's very important that we learn how to come up with the topics. Let's get the topic, then we move together, so that when we move from here or come to the next, from there or go to the next, just like that, in that order, together as a team. That's the message, and that's the cry from here. We ask us to work together. All right, are there any questions on this? I'm going to move to the questions that are asked. These questions, they will help you to refine your topics, right? Most of you have made the topics, but I think these questions, once we ask them, they will help you to make sure you drive sense out of your topics. These are questions that you are asked when you are done with the research. Mostly, you defend the research. Yeah, you have to defend the research. The professors who sit before you and the scholars, including other doctors of philosophy, they'll sit. And when they sit, you have to make the presentation. They have to ask you questions. You should be able to answer the questions. And these are the 20 common questions that they ask you. Before we get the 20 questions, is there any question? Any question? Don't worry, you'll be fine. Is there any question, any comment, any concern? Are you able to hear me? Can you hear me? Can you see the screen? We'll get to the questions.
I can hear you from my end, sir, and I can see the screen as well.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
I can hear you, sir, as well, but I'm kind of asking if I will submit my questions, my topics tomorrow. I've been working a bit late, of late.
Oh,
don't worry, don't worry.
Don't worry, everything is fine. Don't worry. You will be good, okay?
Okay.
Don't worry,
Thank
we
you.
can submit our
Thank you.
topics. The due date is 23, right? We have extended up to summer 23. The reason why we are giving you the due date is not to pressure you. The idea of putting the due date, you want everyone to be done, then we move together. Eh? When we move to the other section, we should be together. Thanks very much for that one. Thanks. Now let's proceed. Colleagues and friends. At this time around, don't be locked out. Don't be locked out of the meeting. You have to listen carefully to this part. It is one of the most important parts that you have to listen to. Okay, so this one is about the 20 common thesis defense questions you should be prepared for. Okay, listen carefully, colleagues and good friends. I've already said when you are researching, when you're done researching, you are asked to present. You are put there to be cooked. You have to prove whether you really know or you understand, right? And don't worry about someone who say, no, those for last year never presented. It depends. Sometimes you may present, right? Of course, undergraduates, sometimes you may present, sometimes you may not be asked these questions, then you are lucky sometimes, but postgraduate, masters going upwards, you have to face these same questions. But you should be ready for the questions. That's why I'm giving you these questions. Why am I giving them to you as if you are defending already? No, I'm giving you these questions so that they help you as you are thinking, right? As you are thinking of your topics and as you are doing whatever you're doing, you must be aware of these questions. Is that clear? Are you getting me clearly? Then we start. Hello.
Yes, sir, you are clear.
Yeah, you are clear.
And it's very fun because I went through this. I understand it better. It's interesting, especially masters going upward. It's much more interesting. You have a panel of the scholars that stand, and you have to stand, and then they start now. The most of the common question you may be asked is what you learned actually from the study you have done. You yourself, have you learned something? So at that point, you have to sum up your entire study in a few sentences, actually. You have to remember the technical terms you have mentioned in your research. That's why we don't encourage those people that give people to do research for them, because at that point, you may not be able to answer questions. Yeah, because what the examiner actually is wanting is to hear you, and you are presenting exactly what you learned. That is what is happening. And once we are done with all that, the other question that we ask you is, this one is usually followed by default. Why you chose this particular topic and why, what was actually your inspiration behind this study, right? It is one of the trickiest questions, as you have to prove and you convince, the panel that the reasons as why you did what you did. You have to prove to us, you convince that what you did actually is valuable for the society and is actually worthy the time. Okay. So you tell us a bit about how zealous you were about this particular problem. So that's very important. You have to remember that. The second question we ask you now, can you imagine you are being asked this question? What is the importance of your study? How will it contribute or add to the existing board of knowledge? You don't have to scroll. There is nothing like reading, right? At this point, you are not reading anywhere. Those that like answering questions while reading somewhere, right? You're not reading anywhere. The question is your study very important? Do you think the study is very important? And sometimes the way how the tones are coming out, they can even intimidate you just by the way how the tone is coming. So now, You have told us this was your research, this is what you did. Do you think this thing is important? Eh? And then you have to answer. You give us the importance of the study. Now, why I'm telling you this is that as you are thinking about your topics, really don't choose anything that you fail to answer the questions when they come. For example, such question, is this study important? You don't have to go to read in a book to prove that the question, whatever the topic is important. Should be able to answer. Yeah, so as you're thinking of those topics, please think of those topics that you can manage to defend. Okay? You may be asked to summarize your key findings of the research. Again, can you summarize the key findings? Now, at this point, if you never did the study, it may be difficult for you to summarize the study. What type of background research have you done for this study? Such questions. What type of background research have you done for the study? And then you start thinking, have you even done any background research? Finding that you never did anything, you just got everything online and copied and you pasted. What are the limitations you have faced while writing? You have to tell us. So when you're writing, you have to pay attention also to the limitations so that you are able to tell us, oh, I faced these limitations. This is what I faced. You can't say there was a study without any limitation. No, give us the limitations. What did you choose? Why did you choose the particular method or sample for the study? Because at some point you're going to be choosing a sample for the study. Let's say you choose a sample, and let's say, what is the sample of your study? Let's say you're choosing, you choose, you want to get 25 people, right? So now the question is, why are you choosing 25 people, right? Why are you choosing the 5 people, right? If it is about the group of people, tell us, if you chose, let's say in the sample size, we are forming sample, just chose women. So the question is that, why are you just choosing women? You should be able to actually tell us exactly why, right? That is very important, very incumbent. We need that, okay? All right, are we following? Are we still together up to here? Hello, colleagues, are we following? Can I just get confirmation?
Yes,
people are following? You are able to
yes,
hear
sir.
me clear? Okay, that's nice. That's very nice. So you have to tell us exactly. So don't just choose the samples anyhow, right? There are those that you are going to exclude, for example, from the study. Why are you excluding them from the study? You should be able to prove to us whether it is really worth doing, right? Okay, tell us. You're choosing this method of study or maybe method of sampling, especially on the method of sampling, right? There are different sampling methods that we have. You have those probabilistic ones and the non-probability ones. You want to choose maybe judgmental method or snowball method or a purposive sampling or quarter sampling, right? Or systematic sampling. Then you just choose. Now, this is the issue between guessing, those people that just copy and pasting. We ask you such a question, why did you choose purposive sampling instead of these other ones? You can't even defend because you don't understand, You can't defend that, oh, I chose purposive sampling because it is the most useful because of this and this and this, You need to be able to convince. And this question, when they are asking you something, it's not because they don't know the answers. People already know the answers, but they are checking if you really do understand. It's called a defense. There is this question, what will you include if you are told to add something extra to the study? You should be able to think of that. as well. What are the recommendations of your study? I've already told you. Now, on recommendations, this is where I have to, to pass a comment, right? Many people, they just go in literature and copy a recommendation that their friend, someone recommended, right? It looks fancy, it looks nice. They just copy it, you paste it there because it's a nice recommendation. No, it's not about just copying and pasting. It's looking at, do your results really comply, and do they culminate into such a recommendation? That's the thing. Okay, in as much as the recommendation may be good, but the question is that, do your results really communicate, or from riding on the results that you've given us, is it worth for you to give such a recommendation? That's very important as well to consider. Yeah, you told us who formed your sample and why you selected those people. What was the, or you give us, if you are given a chance, for example, would you like to do something different from your work? Very important. So that shows the stability. The question is calculated to check whether your mind was very stable when you are choosing this particular topic, right? And what are the limitations you faced while dealing with your sample? Tell us the limitations that you are dealing with. How did you relate the study to the existing theories? Yeah, you also have to read through the existing theories and check that what you are studying really is related to what has been done. And then there's, of course, a departure, right? Then every research has got the part where you put normal research, further work or further study. So you should be able to tell us when we ask, what is the future scope of this study? Where is it going in the future? You should give us the line, eh? You should be able to tell us where it is going, or the direction of the study, right? Now, this is a very interesting one. Question number 16. It was a bit challenging to me. So I get emotional when I get here, right? A bit. Question number 16. Very simple question, but interesting. It was, what do you plan to do with your work after you have completed your degree? Now, this work is the research. Eh? Do you have what do you plan to do with your research when you're done with the degree? Are you planning something? What we want to check here is that, how are you relating with what you are studying? Are you just studying for the sake of passing a degree? Or you are looking at something that you are really passionate about, that you would want to continue studying? Is it really intriguing you? For example, we have had these situations where people maybe at undergraduates, they do the first degree, they research maybe in financial inclusion. That other time they go to human resource. That other time they'll go to maybe something else very different. You know, they're just swinging across so everywhere. But there is this human being, for example, there is this person who does a study maybe around finance, financial inclusion, does financial inclusion undergraduate, comes to do a master's, they do financial inclusion again, but they're just getting so deep and very wide and looking at other aspects of what they are interested in. They go, they do a PhD and they study the same themes, but it's not the same thing, but they have looked at the aspect of that, but at a very different level. And they have continued with that, things related to the same things that they're looking at. So we are trying to check, are you really interested in these fields? Does that really make sense to you? Very important. Of course, it's not a must that you should continue with this, but we want to check, is your mind really stable, right, concerning the research topic that you chose? What are the research variables you used? This is very important. Obviously, the variables will be there in the research. Do you have any questions to be asked? You can ask. Did you evaluate your work? You can do that. And then if you are given the question, how would you improve your work? You should be able to tell us exactly how you would improve your work. So they are called the 20 common thesis defense questions you should be prepared for. They all sound very easy, right? But if you never did the work and you don't have understanding, the questions may be challenging because you don't understand. So these questions, if you look at them, how they are phrased, they are seeking to check understanding in the person who is doing this particular research. Okay. Are there any questions? Sorry, I've talked too much. Call for questions now. Are there any questions from somebody? I'm here to answer those questions. Thanks. Anyone?